Do you want more success, more growth, more results? Then it's time for the Boundless Success Accelerator from the Modern Observer Group. This isn't your average coaching program. It's where top performers come to dominate. Weekly group sessions, on-demand coaching, a community that's got your back, and a power-packed library of tools to supercharge your business and career. No more excuses, no more waiting. Get in, level up, and start building the life you've been dreaming about. Visit us at modernobserver.com/boundlesssuccess to join today. Let's get you to the next level. Hello, and welcome to the Success Showcase, the podcast that helps you be your best in your business, career, and life. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group, and with me as always is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great. How about you, Eric?
Doing fantastic. And of course, as we record this, it is Veterans Day, so I'd like to do a shout out to all of our veterans. And thank you for your service. We truly appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that you've had in your family. My father-in-law is a veteran, and yeah, you folks are the best.
So today we've got a special guest. We've got Jenna D'Annunzio. Jenna, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners and tell them about yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, Eric. Hi, Chip. Thank you so much for having me. I also want to do a special shout out on Veterans Day. My father-in-law is a veteran, and he just left. He was helping me with the kiddos, his grandkids today. So I know. He's the absolute best, and I just so appreciate him and his willingness to spend this special day hanging out with his three grandkids. So special shout out to all of our veterans, and thank you for your service. So thank you again for having me. My name is Jenna D'Annunzio, and I am a holistic business and mindset coach. I am a second generation entrepreneur. So I co-own two coaching companies with my father, actually, called Mission Driven Advisor and Soul Purpose Institute. I've been doing this for about 10 years now, although being the daughter of the founder of the company, I have a very unique experience where I was raised on the life success production principles that we base our coaching company on and how we teach our clients. So I am incredibly grateful to be where I am today and walk alongside my father in this journey of entrepreneurship. And yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
Fantastic. So, as a second generation entrepreneur,
yes,
how did this affect your mindset? So many people watch their parents go to work every day, come home every night, do the 9 to 5 thing. Entrepreneurship is very different. So, how did that affect your mindset?
It's very different, and especially building a company up from scratch when my father was not, he wasn't really familiar with the entrepreneur mindset. He kind of just took a chance on this. My grandfather he did all sorts of things. He was a car salesman. He had many, many careers and jobs. And my grandmother was the VP of marketing for an insurance company. So they were both very much employees. And growing up watching my father establish this company, it didn't really happen until I was about, I would want to say 12 to 13 years old. So I really watched him in my younger years with multiple jobs, really finding what his sole purpose was, what it really meant for him to build a life and a career and a legacy that he loved. And when he started this company, there were many long hours, many weekends where he was out of town. He was traveling the country, giving speaking engagements, working in tandem with my uncle at the time giving like motivational speeches, right?
No?
So I saw all the hard work and the long hours that he put in, and I learned so much of what it means and takes to be an entrepreneur and the inner workings, what works and what doesn't work, honestly.
Yeah, it is a very different mindset, and you do have to adapt to it. I hadn't realized, how different it is coming up that way, because in my family, my grandmother had her own business. My great grandmother had her own business. My grandfather had his own business. So to me, that was always normal. And it was only when I started talking to other people about, how they grew up that I realized the difference. And it is important because there's two major things that happen when you grow up in an entrepreneurial family. And one is that growth mindset that you get used to. It's like, yes, you can do this. The setbacks are going to come, but you're going to overcome that. And the other is work life integration, because it's so much more difficult to do that when you're an entrepreneur and you're spending 18, 20 hours a day building a business, but you also want to raise your family.
Yes. Yeah. And the concept that you're not trading time for money, but value for money is one in which is so life altering when you look at key success traits for building your business and sustaining that business. And so being able to witness his experience from the outside and really making a daily conscious choice to say, okay, what does that work life integration look like for me? Having witnessed him try to go through and navigate that in his own world, but then also what what did I see that worked for him? What did I see that did not work for him that I don't want to do? And which is just sometimes as important. Sometimes learning what not to do and how to be is just as, if not more important, when we're guiding our own entrepreneurial experience.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
It's always good to learn from setbacks and failures about what doesn't work. It's even better if you can learn from somebody else's failures and setbacks.
Yes. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely agree.
I love what you said about trading value for money rather than time for money, because that is so important. Yeah, if you're just trading hours for money, basically you've created yourself a job, not a business.
Mhm.
But we had a guest here a while back, Bob Berg, who's the author of the Go Giver series of books. And he talks about giving more in value than you're taking in money. And that's how you can build referrals and build a business. And that is so important. You have to look at what you're giving your client and make sure you're not taking away from yourself by giving more time or more money, but value you can do that with.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a key concept that I teach and work with my clients, and is that value lives in the mind of the client. And many people tend to overpromise and underdeliver. And so when I work with my folks, I'm doing my best to pour as much value, time, and energy, hold space for them as often as possible, over deliver, so to speak, while
Yep.
also recognizing that I don't want to diminish my value proposition and my worth, and having it be a win-win situation. My client is winning first, but I want to win too, right?
Right.
And they want this to be a win-win. Business is the only platform really where it's win-win or no deal, right? We see politics, we see sports. They're always win-lose. However, in business, it's a win-win or no deal. And so focusing on what what value means to our clients in business, and then also being able to recognize when I see my value proposition and when I share to them like what I do and how I do it, and there's a price, just like there's an investment to that.
Yep.
They see that as okay, this is the value that I'm receiving, and it's not just an investment, that it's not just an expense, it's an investment in me, in my life, and in my business.
And that's so important. Several weeks ago, we did a show on imposter syndrome. And the core of imposter syndrome is, of course, the fact that you're not valuing your own services or your own capabilities. So, as a mindset coach, how do you coach your clients on understanding their own value?
I have them share to me what that means to them. Value is subjective.
Yes, it is.
So when I say, okay, what is your value? What is your proposition? How do you support people? How do you show up? And I really have them go back and define it. So often we are stuck, we're working in it. We're working in our business. We're ingrained hustle culture. We're just we're grinding, right? We're grinding. And we stop to really slow down, to speed up, to say, okay, what are my value proposition? What am I really good at? What are my strengths? How do I show up for my clients? Oftentimes when they can reiterate that back to me, then they recognize, I do see my worth. We kind of forget. We forget what works. We forget to
We do. We discount things we've done because we go, oh, well, if I did it, anybody could do it. And that's not necessarily the case.
Not there's millions of coaches out there, especially in today's day and right? So frankly, there's no new gurus, right? There's not, but it's how I show up for people. It's how you show up for your clients. It's how Chip shows up for his clients. That really is that unique ability.
Yeah, and you're talking about. I love your toolkit, and basically what I do and what we all do is you got to start with the person in the mirror. And if, as far as a value proposition and so on and so forth, I'm sure that you have to pull that out of a lot of people up front, and that helps you determine whether you want to work with them. Or I'm sure you've had some cases where you thought that this person might have problems ahead of time. They turn out to be an all-star, and then vice versa as far as the value thing goes. That's the way that it works. But it's so important. And I like your Sole Purpose Institute basic toolkit, which includes, it says the paradigm, which is the handbook. I love the Sole Purpose meditations. I love the word peace prescription CD, because obviously we need a little bit of downtime to go through that. I mean, it's the whole package. And based upon your experience of having grown up through that with your dad and with your companies and so on and so forth, that's such an advantage to you. And obviously sharing that with your clients. I mean, I came from the other end of the spectrum because my grandfather was a Polish immigrant and started a manufacturing company out in Wisconsin 100 years ago. And my dad was the youngest of three sons. They wanted to open up a place out here. So he's the one that came out here. And I graduated from college. And after I did with an 80-man shop, he was at the country club every day at noon. So I learned a whole lot of stuff, basically by trial and error with my accounting degree, business management, and so on and so forth. And I'm sharing it forward that way. So, I mean, everybody's experience is different. And we all get to the stage where we want to give back. And that is the most important thing. And by giving back unconditionally, it comes back to you. And that's, what's so important. So, I mean, I love your tools. I love your approach. Your background sounds amazing. And, so it's just a pleasure to have you on here today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a labor of love. As we all know, the journey has not been an easy one. And I'm still on it. And I'm really excited. To your point, Chip, I can't stress enough how I know that I am very blessed to be in the position that I am in, given this foundation that my father has built. And I'm super excited. Well, as my kids would say, I'm nerve-sighted. So it's a healthy combination of a little nervous and excited to embark on this next chapter that really has me grow into building a identity of power within the company. As my father starts to kind of trend down and he's starting to talk about retirement and exploring, and he's just bought a home in Mexico. And so he's living the dream. And now it's my turn to really come and shine and take the legacy of what he's built and take it to the next level. So as I said, I'm nerve sighted to see what's next. The embarking on the opportunity within Jim Britt's international best-selling book series, Cracking the Rich Code, has been an incredible opportunity, and really what led you and I together, Eric. And so feel really, really grateful for this experience in this life.
Yeah, it is an amazing experience. And now you said you grew up with your father running this company. Now you have kids. How are you adapting to all of this with your work-life integration? Dealing with, I think you said 2 kids? 3.
Yes, 3. So my oldest is 10, my middle is 8, and my youngest will be 6 in just a couple weeks. So I have a lot of fun. Yeah, it's an incredible experience. And I work every day to live into what I call the both and, which is recognizing that I don't have to either show up as a mom or a business owner. I can marry and integrate both of those roles. And I really do my best and strive to show up. Who I am anywhere is who I am everywhere. Like this is me. This is what you get. And I love it. And so I meditate with my kids, and I do EFT, emotional freedom technique. I do tapping with them. My 10-year-old, yes, Chip, yes, my 10-year-old taps almost every night before bed. My 8-year-old loves these meditation cards that we got her for her birthday, where it's just a very calming bedtime little card with a picture on it. And I really strive towards bringing them into my experiences as often as possible, because that's how I was raised. And it worked out pretty good. It's had its moments and its ebbs and flows, but at the end of the day, I really have created a system where I do my best to be as present as possible. I tell all of my entrepreneurs that integration, that balance looks different every day. Some days I show up, some days it's a healthy combination where it's 50-50. I feel good about that. Other days it might be 70-30 where I'm more mom mode than I'm work mode. And that's okay. As long as I'm working, I'm staying as scheduled as possible. I have a great village to help, both personally and professionally. So
fantastic. Yeah, I love though that you've touched on 2 things that we talk about quite often: the mindset and the processes of putting things together. Now, we talk a lot about that in terms of business, but these things apply to your life as well. The proper mindset, putting together checklists and processes of how things done, streamline your life so that you're not running in all directions.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And teaching my children those routines. Right? I've built a life and a business where I can be I can pick them up and I can drop them off to school each day. When I pick them up, they know exactly what happens when they come home. They know exactly what's next. Homework, backpack, what days. I mean, there's a schedule that we all have. So when most people think processes and systems, they do. They think business, but they don't realize sometimes it's as simple as just having a daily routine
Yes.
and following that routine with your family and your friends and your colleagues as often as possible, right? Adapting to things outside of our control, of course,
Yes.
right? My father-in-law, bless his heart, on Veterans Day, a veteran himself, got a flat tire on the way to my house. And I said to him, Scott, don't worry about it. Take your time. My clients will understand if they hear little chirps of the kids in the background. All is well.
And that is so important to be able to adapt that way. Yes, we talk about processes as checklists and schedules, but the fact of the matter is, there's an old military saying, no plan survives contact with the enemy.
Yeah.
Or as some of my friends like to say even better, as Mike Tyson put it, everybody has a plan till I punch them in the face. Yeah.
Or the old biblical term where man plans, God laughs.
Yes.
It's all the same thing.
Exactly. Things happen and you have to be able to adapt on the fly.
Yep.
And people think having a process, means sticking to that process strictly and, not letting these things happen. It's like, no, it's having the process that allows you to adapt to these situations.
Yeah. Yeah. And having grace for yourself. As I was building, I started in the company, and literally, I think it was 2 months later, I found out that I was expecting with our second. And so I had a 15-month-old at home, and then I was expecting. And so my 2 out of the 3 of my kids have seen me through building this company. And, as parents, the first 5 years of their lives, they're sick every other day.
Yeah.
They're coming home, bringing stuff, coughing in your face. And it was so important for me to navigate that both end where I showed up for them and for myself and my business as best possible, and giving myself grace. Sometimes if I only have 75% to give, if I can give that 75%, I call that a win.
Yeah, you do have to allow yourself that chance to breathe and allow yourself not to be perfect.
Yeah.
I remember, this is going back a few years, during just before actually everything shut down for COVID. I had caught COVID.
Oh.
And I was on the phone with someone that I work with, and I told him what was driving me crazy is that I can only move at half speed. This was just dragging me down. And he says to me, he goes, yeah, but Eric, you moving at half speed, you're still getting twice as much done as everybody else.
Yes, I find that way. I am very efficient as well, and like laser focused. If I'm going to do something, I have that ability to do that too. So to your friend's point, it's all about being as efficient as possible and then giving yourself grace, like marrying those two concepts. That's the most. Yeah, that's funny.
No, it's interesting. You're talking about all the tools and everything that's going on. When I talk about basically my mantra is purpose, passion, positivity, and a plan is a formula for happiness and success. That's my mantra. That's how I start all my commercials. And you can have all the tools and everything else in the world, but the key word is just awareness. That life is simply a series of present moment events. And if you choose positivity to guide them, great things are going to happen. And once you have that awareness, life is not always going to be hunky-dory. It's always going to be like that. But if you have that awareness to go back to at any point in time, visualizations are great. You talk about your kids and your dad being a grandparent. My granddaughter will be 5 next month, and I got a 2.5-year-old grandson. And the bottom line is all I can do is just think about them all the time. I'm very visual. I have picture calendars for the last 6 years sitting on my desk right in front of me to look at all the time. I mean, there are different things that you can do to build your gratitude practice and everything else to make that work. And I can tell just by looking at your desk in the background that that's a source of joy for you too.
Yes, yes, it is. I stress this concept. It's called a prosperity power hour with each of my clients. Don't be scared. It's not an hour. It just sounds. When I first introduced the practice to my clients, they start to get all nervous. I don't have an hour, and I said, "You think I do?" But I call it a prosperity power hour, and really, all it is an allotted amount of time, given the conditions of life, where you wake up and you actively and intentionally choose to start at what I call the top of the spiritual mountain so that you don't feel like you're clawing your way up throughout the day, right? What does that mean? I have all right here next to my desk, a gratitude journal where I'm just focusing, as Chip said, on what am I grateful for today? What would make today great? What is a daily affirmation that I can intentionally say out into the world? A quick little, right now I'm reading Reframe Your Brain by Scott Adams.
Oh, I love that. That is a fantastic book.
Isn't it so good so far?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I have my highlighter in here and I just 5 to 10 pages a day where I'm reading and just plugging into that higher power. It has nothing to do with business. There's nothing to do with anything but me just focusing on me and how I can better live my life, how I can choose to be the greatest expression of who I want to be. And movement, stretching, yoga, whatever it may be. I'll go for a walk in the morning. And this just it's a mindfulness routine, as I said, that is intentional and being more loving to ourselves. When we can be more loving to ourselves, we invite others to do the same.
And that is so important, and people tend to forget it. There's a reason when you're on an airplane and they're giving you the safety instructions, they tell you put your mask on first.
Yes.
Because you can't take care of someone else if you're not taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
And people tend to forget that.
And this is why integrating all the roles that you play is so critical, right? And most female entrepreneurs, most mothers are caretaker archetypes. We want to take care of everybody. And we're always we're likely the one to eat last.
Yep.
Right? My best friend's mom is Italian right off the boat. And she to this day will tell you she prefers food cold. And I could never understand. I thought it was the strangest thing. And I said, why? And she said, well, she was in corporate America. And she said, well, everybody ate first. I just got home. I started cooking. I'd feed the kids. And then we had to get out the door for sports. And so I just always ate last and my food was always cold. And so I prefer it that way now. And so I laugh and you laugh because this is the importance of being able to recognize and integrate that taking care of us, put your mask on first.
Yes.
And actually everybody else benefits. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are coming up on the end of our time. So before we go, if our listeners want to get more information on what you do, contact you as a potential client, how can they do so?
Yes, please. Thank you so much for asking. I am on LinkedIn. I'm also on all the social media platforms. So Jenna D'Annunzio on Facebook, Jenna D'Annunzio _3 on Instagram. They can also email me at jenna@soulpurposeinstitute.com. Or even call me at 585-672-5700.
Fantastic. So Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for this week?
I love the title work-life integration. Obviously, work is work, life is life, and the two of them got to go together. And obviously, you have all the tools professionally to teach people and help them and encourage them to do what they're doing. But having a gratitude practice, I have a gratitude journal, which is nothing more than a journal of everything that's happened day by day for now the last 11 years. Basically, I have a spreadsheet, days of the year down the left side, comments down the right, and I can look at all kinds of wonderful things that are going on. But it's so important to start your day with a positive morning routine, which does not mean turning on the media and so on and so forth. Get yourself going. But it's so important to work on them together. And you got to realize that awareness is the key word. You're always going to have your ups and downs, but by using the tips and the tools and the experience that you provide for people, it helps out a whole lot. So God bless what you're doing. Congrats.
Thank you so much, Chip. Thank you.
Yeah, I think for me, the big takeaway is the fact that, when you're working towards work-life integration, the tools, the techniques, they're all the same. The same things you're doing to make your business thrive can be used to make your life thrive. And people have a tendency to silo the two and not use the same tools for them. And they're really cheating themselves when they do that.
Yeah, everything is a transferable skill. Everything.
Yes.
How I teach my kids how to be great humans in this world is really no different than how I show up for my clients.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And it's so critical. The use of those transferable skills are so important. And when we know that, when we're aware, like Chip said, and we have those tools, then can we start to implement them?
Exactly. So, yeah, I think that for me is a very big takeaway for our listeners today. So, thanks for being with us. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch every episode at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Audible, and Rumble, as well as wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.